You should not have hidden your past from him, Elizabeth. You should have shown him that you've always been a monster. Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Order4765, Midnight Gemlord, Artgoon, and Sean. Now, behind this breakdown/discussion on how the bloody Ellie and the history of Elizabeth shall act as the defining key to allow Tristan to awaken his true potential, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts on Tristan potential in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month, get exclusive videos, early content, and more. You'll see now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? I'm the Pencil here, and here we are to talk about how I think Elizabeth may have accidentally power capped her own son through the shame of her past. And this is a little bit of a weird topic, but let's talk about it. So one of the biggest things about Tristan right now is that he fears his demon side. Like, quite clearly, he does not like it. It is also very painful for him. We're going to talk about whole pain thing in another video and how that could be overcome, how that could be negated and stuff like that, or how it could be a lasting effect and just a lasting consequence to his abilities. But that's another video for another time. But the main thing right now that we can see in multiple sources, both obviously the Four Knights manga and also Cursed by Light, is that he is scared of his demon side. He is scared of the combative side. As he says to Melascula, the main reason he didn't use any of that great dark power against her initially until Lancelot made him use it against her because she turned into a giant snake is because he doesn't like hearing about how dangerous and monstrous he looks. He's ashamed of that side of himself. He's ashamed of the bloodthirsty, violent, and powerful warrior he is. Sure, Tristan is undeniably gifted. Arguably, if it wasn't for Lance being the strongest, if you were to just, right after I read Seven Deadly Sins, sit me down and be like, hey, out of these characters in their biology, which would be the best combo to make the most powerful character, I would have said Tristan, hands down. Once again, child of the strongest demon and the strongest goddess. Like, what else more could I want for an extremely strong child? And Tristan has that power. It's clearly a blessing of his. He has always been relatively strong. We see that in part 1 of Grudge of Edinburgh. Just naturally, despite avoiding his training and running off to go ride horsebacks, he's still more than strong enough to compete, even without his dark powers. So he definitely got that boom, that biology boost. Like, you know that one guy who was just born strong in your class? Like, no matter what, no matter who, no matter where, no matter why, he has never touched a weight in his life, yet simultaneously he is the strongest person, and like every single coach wants him on the football team and or wrestling team. Yeah, that guy, that's who Tristan is. He's just scrawny, but he is extremely powerful. But the thing is, due to the very nature of that power and what usually causes it to exist and spurt out, battle lust, a battle feeling, that crave, that itch, he associates it negatively. And he associates the traits of his parents that he sees primarily, the positivity, the joy, the happiness, as the good things. And anything really battle hungry or dangerous is bad. And this is only reinforced by how Elizabeth refuses to actually tell him about her past. Like, he knows of the Bloody Ellie epithet and her legendary power. He even asks he even asks Melascula about it. He's like, hey, could you, tell me about my mom and what she was like and how powerful she was and what she did, all that. He's interested. He wants to know. But, of course, like Tristan is himself, Elizabeth is ashamed of her past. He's ashamed of what she did and what her power did before and what she did under the orders of her mother. And due to that, she never tells Tristan. And obviously, since Meliodas has had really nothing to fight in the past 16 years, ever since Tristan was born, he has had no real reason to express his power either. His violent, more darker tendencies really get pushed to the side, and something that Meliodas in the original series even suppressed purposefully. The idea of suppressing and avoiding the negativity instead of fighting it head on, or at worst, letting it consume you, is a major theme of Seven Deadly Sins, and it's carried over into Four Knights through Tristan. But I think by doing this, It's done Tristan a lot of disservice. He's sort of barricading himself from his own potential. You got to think about it. Where does Tristan's real potential lie in? Not just in his healing abilities, not just in his goddess abilities, but in his raw power and how he can express said power. And, well, don't get me wrong, he's already very powerful, with his healing abilities being top-notch, except for, diseases and curses, the stuff that's really hard to do, and even having massive attacks like Falling Stars and Twinkling Star. Even still, he's falling short of the potential of his mother. And admittedly, don't get me wrong, Elizabeth is more goddess than him and doesn't have a good chunk of her biology fighting against her. Like, humans are very compatible with the other clan's energies. For some reason, well, I guess it makes sense. They are the closest to chaos, and chaos is a balance of light and darkness, so it makes sense that Elizabeth's human vessels would take well to her goddess powers. Meanwhile, Tristan has what should be about half of his biology literally fist fighting him. So I can definitely understand why Elizabeth has a stronger, more high-level power and compatibility, but still, you gotta remember, Elizabeth was 16 in the original series. Hold on, let me check something. Yeah, even after Meliodas' 6-month death nap, she was still 16. She's at the exact same age Tristan was. And yet Tristan is much weaker than her. And admittedly, don't get me wrong, Elizabeth, by the time she awakens to her powers properly and gets the full breadth of them, she has 3,000 years of experience behind those powers. But even before she got her full memories, she was still a monster in terms of raw power because she had access to all that. So why is Tristan lacking? Why does Tristan not have the raw gains that his mama does, outside of maybe just having less goddess DNA? However, we are in the world of 7 deadly sins, and there's something we know about power levels in terms of not the numbers, but just like literally levels of power and magic in 7 deadly sins. Your mentality can drastically hinder you to the points of literally locking away depths upon depths of your real power and absolute potential. We've seen this numerous times in the previous series. We've seen when characters get emotional and either develop or accept sides of themselves, they become stronger. Look at Bon and Meliodas in their intense fight in Season 1. Bon and Meliodas were noted by Gothr to have gotten genuinely stronger. They're the whole reason that Gothr even started the Gila side plot in the first place. And that's the main reason that Gothr even picked her, because their power increased when they felt emotions. We see that when Gothr gets his memories back and nothing else, and fully accepts himself as who he is and what he was, a being with a heart, a being who can feel, a being that was built to love and cry and feel pain, he gets insanely stronger. Nothing else happens. It's not like he had a secret switch turned off in his head. He was just mentally suppressing himself, mentally limiting his potential. Same thing with King. We see it in Season 1. When he's mentally debuffed against Helbram, Helbram's able to slap him around, abuse him, and mollywop him, if you will. But the moment King sobers up and decides that enough is enough, he absolutely annihilates Helbram, despite not getting any real power up, not getting a new spirit spear, nothing like that. He just bodybags him because he has access to his real and proper potential. We know, for a fact, based on multiple previous occurrences, that no matter what, your mentality and your emotions can definitely alter your potential and your output and your ability. Heck, your very magic can change based on your perspective. Look at what happened as recent as Donnie, where his I lift stuff magic turned into full-blown telekinesis because he thought about it a different way. So Tristan, the guy with arguably the most potential in the entire verse, outside of Percy, because Percy is Percy, the main character, he could definitely just be limiting himself. He looks at both of his parents, two people who were entirely ashamed about their past, entirely ashamed about what they did, and took that shame onto himself. Unlike a regular demon or a regular goddess even, he's not necessarily praised for his combat skills. He's not praised for how much power he has. He's not praised for how many lives he takes. He's praised for existing and being a good boy. as you should. Obviously, I'm not saying the demon or goddess environments were healthy, safe environments for a child to grow up in. Look what it did to Meliodas, Elizabeth, and Zeldris, and pretty much every demon and goddess we see. It produced a whole bunch of crazy, fear-mongering monsters that ended up doing nothing but destroying each other for the most part. But still, that's the thing. The environment that they grew up in fostered power. It put forth the idea that power is important, power is necessary. That's what gave birth to Meliodas, leader of the Ten Commandments. That's what gave birth to Elizabeth, and her title, the Bloody Ellie. That environment and that perspective is what made them so devastatingly powerful, to the point where no one compared to them outside the literal deities themselves. But now that they've been ashamed of that, now that they've moved on from that, now that they're in new stages of their lives, being parents, they don't want to show that side to Tristan. They don't want to reveal the monsters they once were, because why would they? That is such a dark, sad part of their past that I bet they wish they could just erase, that they just never had and never happened. It's why Elizabeth doesn't talk about it. And it seems like Meliodas may have been a little bit more open to it, for the fact that Tristan doesn't ask about Meliodas, he asks about his mother. So I believe Tristan may know something of the monster his father once was, but in reality, he may not. And I think it's even worse with Elizabeth, the Bloody Ellie, and leaving that away, locking that side of her personality in a box, and only letting Tristan see what he wants to be shown. By giving Tristan this perspective, by allowing it so that power, strength, ability is not encouraged, and not even the control of it is encouraged, considering it's been 4 years since Greta of Edinburgh, and Tristan's control over his demonic side is still no better than it was before. Well, realistically it is. He can activate it at will now. So it is a bit better, but it's not under control, despite 3 years, or maybe 2 years. I think, was he 14 in Greta of Edinburgh? One of the two. Still, it's been a good chunk of time, and he still hasn't mastered that side of himself. He's still scared of it. He still doesn't want to tap into it. He doesn't want to be the monster. He doesn't want to be that thing that people look at with fear and terror. He wants to be what he sees in his mother. A beautiful, powerful, kind, helping person. But mainly the kind, helping person. And due to that, he's locked away, presumably, a large chunk of his potential. Am I saying that Tristan would be as powerful as Lance if he just had a slight mentality shift? No, I think Lance has external factors that makes him a bit too powerful. So even if we did have like a demon raised or goddess raised, or I guess suppose an old demon or old goddess raised Tristan, I don't think he would be as powerful as Lance, but still I think he'd be a lot stronger. I think Arthur wouldn't be able to bat him away casually and ignore his attacks with nothing more than his cape. I think Tristan would be monstrous, like his mom was monstrous at 16 years old. And the reason I think Elizabeth is the main key to unlocking that monster that slumbers deep within Tristan is because of the ideas of perspective. Since Tristan wishes to emulate his mother, since Tristan finds more solace and is able to more easily connect to her, he latches on to her ideals and wishes to emulate them. And thusly, due to her lack of violence and her lack of want for violence in her latest ideals, Tristan also goes down that path. But due to a lack of violence and a lack of strength not being really useful for power growth and really useful for combat, he's locked away not just his demon side out of fear of the damage and destruction and power it has, but also he's probably locked away a good chunk of his goddess side. He locked away a lot of that potential because if his mom, the most perfect person on the planet to him, doesn't like using that side of herself, doesn't like to show that off, why should he? And it may even be a subconscious thing for him. He may just not even realize that he's not reaching the full potential of his goddess side, just because he's internalized that way of being so much. He doesn't want to go down that path. So he won't. He'll keep avoiding it. He'll keep running away from it. And that's why I think properly learning, properly experiencing, and understanding that his mother was once a monster too, I think it will allow him to reach his full potential. Mainly because he has that blockage in his mind. He has that understanding. Like, My mom would never be that. Like, there's no way. This has got to be a rumor. Like, you got to tell me about it. There's no way that she was ever like that, because my mom would never be like that. My dad, maybe. He's a demon. You know, they're like that. But a goddess? Like, no. Remember, he has no other influences, goddess-wise, outside of Elizabeth. Before he appeared, I would have thought Mael would have trained him. His blades are even named for Mael and his other ego, Esterosa. But it seems like he has no mention of him, or at least not have met him yet, because, you know, he has a lack of mastery over his abilities, and due to that, he has no other context, no other source, no other avenue for the Bloody Ellie. He has no other reason or way to get information about that other side of his mother, which means that he has no other route of comparison. He just has the mother he has before him, and he just has that one perspective. And with that one perspective, he's going to limit himself. He's going to restrict his potential, not just out of fear of his demon side, because, oh no, power, bad, destruction, bad, we can't do that. But also, the destructive power of the Goddess Clan is no joke. The abilities that they have are just as suited for destruction as the demon clans, if not even more. So that two-sided coin that Tristan is still dangerous on both sides. Heads or tails, you have monsters. And I think if Tristan learns from who is kind of the unknown here, because he's obviously not going to learn it from Elizabeth. I don't see the characters returning to the Kingdom of Leonis anytime soon. I don't think he can learn it from any of the commandments, unless more Chaos commandments get revived, because, you know, they're kind of all gone. Like, who's left? Fraudron's gone. Grey Road is in a bottle. Malascula is now gone. Galland is now gone. Zeldris, maybe. That's if they go to the Demon Realm. Gelda, maybe, if they go to the Demon Realm. But a majority of the commandments are gone. The Archangels may or may not be able to tell him. But even then, we don't know if they've fully incarnated yet. There's been no mention of them at all. Not even Mael has been mentioned, and we know for a fact, for all intents and purposes, he should be alive. But that hasn't been mentioned yet. But I think what Tristan really needs is for someone to reveal to him and someone to explain to him that his mother wasn't always perfect. His mother wasn't always a non-violent person. His mother, at one time, even if it was for the wrong reasons, understood that she had power. And that she had to use that power to harm other people for her cause. And now Tristan's in that exact same boat. We see that he almost has the ability to go that far. He almost has the ability to do that even without his demonic influence. Specifically, when Pelgard first reveals himself and they all prepare to jump him, all 4 knights at once, when Lance says, we should just let him go, doesn't necessarily matter. Tristan's like, whoa, what are we doing here? He's a knight of Camelot. He needs to go right now. And I'm not talking leaving. I'm talking about leaving life. I will take his head this instant, Lancelot. What are you talking about? He definitely has it in him, but he doesn't have it under his purview. Thusly, the only time we may ever see a full potential Tristan is when he's out of control. But if he's out of control, he's not an asset at that point. You look what happened when he fully lost control after encountering Arthur. He started attacking anything that moved and breathed. Obviously, that's not an asset. He needs that focused, pinpointed power. The kind of power that Prime Meliodas had. The kind of power that the Bloody Ellie had. The kind of power that both sides of his biology, heck, all three really, all 3 parts of his biology, from the goddess side to the demon side to the human side, all have. They all have the capability and potential to be monstrous beings capable of extreme destruction and power. But Tristan, a person afraid of that extreme destruction and power, will never, and I mean never, reach it if he keeps running away from it. So I think the goal, the next step, is to get Tristan to understand his origins. Get him to learn more about his past, and mainly learn more about his mother. Because she is, purely accidentally, by the way, I don't believe Elizabeth was malicious at all in doing this. Like, hypothetically, before you get the wrong idea, I don't think Elizabeth should have, thrown Tristan a pair of boxing gloves and said, hey, put him up, we're throwing hands right now. I don't think that should have happened. I think that would have been weird. But I think Elizabeth shouldn't have been ashamed of her past, because she knows it's not her fault. She did what she was told and what she was ordered to do because she had no other choice. It was either that or perish. So I think Elizabeth, in a way, should push forth that narrative, or should have, because I think it's too late now. Either she's going to stay alive, or we're just never going to see her again, in terms of either she goes away or we just never return to Leonis. So I think we should have had something like that for Tristan to reach his full potential. But since we can't now, we're going to need an external source. We're going to need someone with access and availability to the time that Elizabeth was a monster to let Tristan know that it's okay. That's the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing holding Tristan back. His mentality, his ideology, and his morals. He believes that under no circumstances it's okay to really be a monster. And even the one time he almost gave into it, after seeing Percy and Gawain go up against Pelgard, he let Pelgard go. Even against a Knight of Chaos, even against one of the many Knights of Camelot who could cause who knows how much trouble in the future, he did not fight him. He put it down because he knew that was something his mother would do. His mother wouldn't go out of her way to slaughter someone who's done no direct harm to them. And if anything, he helped, so why get rid of him? So I definitely think if we can find someone in some way to remove that mental block, to get him unleashed, to properly undo what his upbringing did, we can have a monster. We can have a monster, and it would make perfect sense based on everything that the series has established up to this point. Ironically enough, very much, this just came to mind, I think Tristan is a lot like Superman in that case. Superman, due to how he was raised in a nice household with a nice family in a fragile world, just like Tristan was, he suppresses a lot of his strength subconsciously. The mental blocks in Superman are strong. He doesn't even mean to do it. He just did it. He developed them because he had to in order to keep the world safe. And he also didn't want to be a destructive monster. He wanted to be a savior. And that's the same thing with Tristan. Tristan doesn't want to be a destructive creature. He doesn't want to do any of that because his environment didn't condone that. It didn't encourage that. And unfortunately, Tristan has been forced into a scenario where the environment is endorsing that. The environment is supporting that because there's nothing else left. If Tristan keeps this mental block on him, if he keeps the fear of not just his demonic side, but the full monstrous potential of his goddess side and even his human side, he's going to end up failing. He's going to end up letting people die because he needs that power. This is something that Meliodas and Elizabeth both acknowledge even as they go through their developments about their internal perspectives and characters. Despite not liking what they were doing, they needed that power to survive and to protect the ones they cared for and the ones they loved. That was the entire point of Meliodas getting his power back and creating post-Druid Meliodas. Understanding that the power is needed, but the control is also needed. So, the two pinnacles of power and control, Prime Meliodas and Prime Elizabeth, are now passing that journey onto their son. Tristan now has to learn the balance between his insane, ungodly, demonic power and his goddess power, alongside the control and ability to pinpoint it, to direct it, to show it. And if he gets an example, whether it be through Mael, or Elizabeth, or Meliodas, but primarily the bloody Ellie, I think he'll finally understand. I think his mindset will finally change. And we'll see a Tristan who still has a long way to go. Once again, he's only 16. Even factoring in his human lifespan. If you were to add all the lifespans of the three separate species together and then divide them by 3, assuming all pieces of Tristan were equal. In fact, he's half human, so you may have to do some weird math on that. He still is extremely young. Humans in Seven Deadly Sins do live to upwards of 100 years, so it's entirely possible for Tristan to live a very long time. Even still, with that being the case, the potential that Tristan has right now, if his mother and a 16-year-old vessel is anything to indicate, he can be unbelievably powerful. And all it takes is a change in perspective. However, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think that the bloody Ellie and learning about that side of his mom and finally truly embracing his other half, the monster sides of his power, is what Tristan really needs to become the next level? Or do you think that he's good right now and there's not much a mental change can do for that? He just needs to get stronger physically. Pick a choice. Well, I said pick a choice. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little notifications don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below and support for as low as $1 a month. You know, exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.